Police in Gauteng say they'll be doing more tests for drunken driving on the streets of that province, particularly this month, Transport Month, and ahead of the festive season. You know how many lives drunken driving has claimed over the years. Also a debate around whether it should be made illegal to have even one drink before getting behind the wheel. Mokebe Thulo is the head of brand at aware.org. Mokebe, good afternoon to you. Well, having more tests on the road, more roadblocks, do you think that stops people drinking and driving? Does it have a deterrent effect?
Good afternoon, Stephen, and good afternoon to your viewers. Thank you so much for having us on your show. To answer your question, it is a firm yes, but that alone cannot solve all our problems when we speak about drunken driving and reducing those numbers. There's a huge job that is to be done, and that is part of our mandate to create awareness around this large problem that we've been facing for a number of years. Supported by the next stage, which would be the roadblocks, the action and physical intervention that takes place, that visibility being created. So the roadblocks and the testing at the roadblocks has shown to decrease the numbers for drunken driving.
I mean, there was a time, I suppose, when people would argue if they go out at night, the only way to go home would be to drive in a car. It was no public transport at night. It was incredibly dangerous. There's absolutely no justification. There are more services. There are Uber, there are others. So people can go out and get home. Are people still drinking and driving in large numbers, or has there actually been a change?
Stephen, sadly, people are still drinking and driving. The insight that we base a lot of our work on is that firstly, people are more afraid of being caught than of losing their lives on the road by getting behind the wheel intoxicated. But another thing is that there seems to be some sort of theme that I won't be the one to get caught. So yes, it is still prevalent. We believe because of the work being done, specifically with the partnerships that are being formed, and the collaborations around the specific problem, the numbers have decreased. But yes, it is absolutely still something that happens and something that needs to be addressed throughout the year.
Isn't one of the problems, I think, that many people actually expect the police at a roadblock to be corrupt? They think they'll be able to pay their way out of it. And don't many of them do that?
I mean, one of the things that we often say is that this is a whole of society problem. So yes, I think we've all heard the stories around people perhaps paying off officers, etc. Of course, the JMPD, who we have witnessed and have seen are doing an excellent job, are not themselves perfect, and there will be such cases that occur. But in order for us to approach this and effectively do so, we have to consider the fact that it is us, the citizens of this country, the people that are potentially bribing these police officers, and that's why we take a whole of society approach in our engagements to address this and other matters that are related to drinking and driving.
Mokebe, I mean, there are other issues. As I understand the process, if someone is over the limit, they get stopped. They get breathalyzed. That's the first step. So the police officer will say, I'm going to breathalyze you. But that doesn't hold up in court. You actually have to go to a district surgeon and get a blood test, and that takes a long time. So the person may be over the limit when they were stopped by the police. By the time the test is done, 4 hours later, they're legally sober. It doesn't mean they weren't legally drunk when they were actually driving. I've got to say, do we need a different system?
Stephen, that is absolutely correct, and that is part of where we come in as Aware and as a collective in terms of supporting organizations such as the JMPD. So we've taken technology and used it to further our cause. On a practical level, this is in the form of EBAT machines. EBAT machines are evidenced breath alcohol testing machines, which can be used. They are quick, they are accurate, and have proven to be so, and they are admissible in court. So it's almost, to the layman a breathalyzer. So it looks and feels like a breathalyzer, but the evidence thereof is admissible in court just as a blood test would be.
Are there other measures that we can work? I mean, you mentioned it's a whole-of-society approach. I mean, of course it is. But, I mean, apart from roadblocks and tests and campaigns, and it's interesting because in places like Britain, Australia, not so much the United States, I don't think, but Britain and Australia were able to, really reduce the numbers of people who would drive drunk. It took a generation, though. It took a long time. There was public awareness. There were other things that they did. They're also stronger states in a way. They have more capacity, more roadblocks, more police officers, better court systems. We need to do something similar, I suppose.
Yeah, and I mean, we look to the rest of the world. In our research, we look at states or places that have reduced these numbers significantly and look to see what they have done right. Of course, with the examples that you've mentioned, the composition of the countries are very different to the South African demographic. But what we do is we look at the underlying causes for drinking and driving, for example. So we see how we can impact this, and we have to do this in a number of ways, and this is why partnerships, such as the ones that we have with the JMPD, with NECRO, with RTMC are so important, because you need to close the entire loop. It cannot be one organization doing one thing and aiming to have any sort of radical impact. And that is why so many partners have to be involved at different places in this journey in order for us to be effective.
Mokebe, thank you very much indeed. Mokebe Thulo from aware.org. Really do appreciate the time.